Hey everyone, this is Vince from airpreneur.com, and today I'm going to be talking to you about how we built and scaled a rental portfolio with $0 out of pocket. Yes, it can be done. You can acquire cash flowing units with zero out of pocket dollars, and we're going to show you exactly how we did that and how you can do that moving forward by introducing you to a few different models. So let's dive into this a little bit more and explain what the hell am I talking about. Okay, so why is this even relevant? Why am I talking about this? So most people just don't have the capital needed to invest in real estate. It's often pretty capital intensive to try and buy your own properties. And you're often looking at spending $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 just for a down payment and closing costs. So let's look at an actual 2023 example in the current market, in the current climate. Average home price in the US is $410,000. So 20% down of that, let's just do the math, is $82,000. Now, I could stop right there. Most people do not have $82,000 liquid in their account ready to put down on a house. It's just not common. It's just not likely. A lot of people rent. A lot of people really increase their living expenses. And having $82,000 down is just very unrealistic right from the get-go, right? People have kids, people have student loans they're paying off and car payments and things like that. So saving that kind of money is difficult. And honestly, $82,000 is just the down payment. That's not including the closing costs, which could easily be another $10,000 to $20,000. So even if you do a lower down payment loan, you're still looking at $42,000, and all of this capital spent really only gets you to $400 to $600 a month in cash flow on average. I mean, most single family home rental properties are really only doing $400 to $600 a month, maybe a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less. And even then, even if you're hitting $600 to $800 a month in cash flow, that doesn't account for the expenses that'll come up that you have to use that cash flow for. I would know in my most recent 2-family house, every single time I start to build a stockpile of cash, it goes right into renovations or right into repairs. I had to fix the roof. I had to fix the deck. I had to fix a major plumbing issue. I'm never really making profit, unfortunately, right? So let's say you do have some capital and your goal is to scale, right? Like you want to get into real estate because your idea is you want to be financially free. You want to start building monthly cash flow. So then you have the BRRRR method, right? Now, for those of you unfamiliar with the BRRRR method, this means you buy a house in cash and then you pull the cash out each time you do a renovation and you use that cash to buy your next house. The reality is you still need a ton of cash to get started with this and for the renovations, right? It's not just buying the house, it's also to fix up the house. And the thing is, if you go lower than that $100,000 threshold to buy a house, that often means in most markets that you're buying a lower quality house, right? That means you're going to have to spend a ton on renovations. And that also means you're probably going to attract lower quality tenants because it's in a lower quality area. So we still have this cash problem. We still have this issue of you're trying to build cash flow, you're trying to scale, you're trying to get financially free, but you just don't have the capital. Then if you want to do the BRRRR method, but you want to buy slightly higher quality homes, you're talking $100,000 or more, so we still have the capital issue. You're also subject to interest rates when you do the cash out refis or the HELOCs. So right now that's pretty relevant. The average interest rate is like 7%, which is bananas, but that's just the reality. It's tough to have the cash to get into real estate and get cash flowing properties. That's the truth. This is the reality. So what's the new way, right? How can you do this with little to no capital upfront investment? Right? So this is not a gimmick. This is actually what we did. And I'm just going to tell you exactly how we did it. So there's two methods. There's two methods to build a high cash flow portfolio with little to no capital. The first is arbitrage. This is called rental arbitrage. I'll explain the model in a second. And the second model is short-term rental property management, right? So this is not the same as property management on a regular rental, although you could do the same thing, but in the method I'm about to tell you, the cash flows are much higher. So what the hell are these? So first, let's look at arbitrage. So if you're not familiar, arbitrage involves leasing a home, leasing an apartment, leasing multifamily units, etc. Right? You're leasing the space. You are not buying the property. So you lease it just like a long-term tenant, and then you furnish it at your expense. Wait a minute, Vince. You said no capital out of my pocket. Hold on, I'm going to get there. But you furnish the unit out of your expense. So let's say, the average 3-bedroom on our watch is like $10,000 to $12,000 to furnish, right? $10,000 to $12,000, you furnish the unit, then you list it on short-term rental platforms. We use Airbnb just because we know how to optimize the platform so well. And then you just collect everything over rent and expenses. So this model in and of itself typically can cash flow $1,000 to $4,000 a month. I mean, it really varies. It's seasonal, of course. Some months you're profiting $4,000 a month off of one unit. Some months you're profiting $1,000. Either way, that's already so much better than the cash flows on a traditional real estate investment. So I'll dive into this a little bit more, but how does that differ from the other models? So short-term rental property management, it's actually the same exact thing. So you find a unit available for lease or rent, or even a house that someone's trying to sell that's furnished. Then it's furnished at the landlord's expense, not yours. And then it's listed on short-term rental platforms. So these are quite literally identical. The process, the day-to-day, it's exactly the same. The major difference is the landlord is paying for the furniture and you're not. So you're probably like, why wouldn't I do this 10 out of 10 times? Well, you could, but you'll make less money because at the end of each month, you're only taking a percentage of revenue and you're not just collecting everything over rent. So the cash flows are typically higher with the arbitrage model than they are with the short-term rental property management model because you're only taking a percentage. So like, for example, let's just say this little house that we have here does $5,000 a month in revenue on Airbnb. If you're using the arbitrage model, if rent is $2,000, you just collected $3,000. Now, granted, there are expenses and other things in there. But now, if this is the same house on the short-term rental property management model, the landlord is taking $5,000, and then you're taking a 20% cut, which is $1,000. Still, either way, the cash flow is great. It's just the cash flow will be higher on the arbitrage front because you're investing into the furniture. All right, so how do you get into arbitrage, though, with $0 out of pocket? Yes, it can be done, right? It can be done, and that is exactly how we obtained 10 units, and I didn't pull any capital out of my pocket. So here's how you have to think about it. Your only capital expense is furniture. So the question then becomes, how do you obtain furniture without spending capital, right? That is the problem you need to solve. And the solution is, drum roll, you just finance the furniture, man. That's it. So you're probably wondering, how do I finance the furniture? Do I need to take out a loan? Do I need to do this? Do I need to do that? It's really not that complicated. The method that we've used is just use a business credit card for 0% APR 12 months. It does not take 12 months to pay back $5,000 to $10,000 of furniture, dude. So typically how we would structure it is we would analyze markets using some strategies that we use. We'd see that certain units would cash flow $1,000 to $2,000 a month, etc. And then we jump into those units with a $5,000 or $6,000 furniture cost, knowing we'd be paid back in 3 months. 3 months. And then you also obtain all of these benefits of using a business credit card, like points and things like that. So we traveled to Canada for free, actually, by doing this. But you also don't pay out of pocket for the furniture. It's just an awesome idea. It's an awesome model, and it allows you to get these units very quickly and scale quickly. Now, property management, right? How do you get into this for $0 out of pocket? Well, you have no expenses. There's no expenses. The landlord is paying for the furniture, and that's what's so beautiful about this model. I don't think this is talked about enough. The other name for this is co-hosting, but it's really just short-term rental property management. And the reality is the day-to-day is exactly the same as it is with arbitrage, but you have absolutely no upfront cost. The landlord is furnishing the unit. So you have $0 down, and you also have zero risk because you're profiting on day one. Right? Day one, you're making money because you had no money in the deal. So yes, the monthly cash flows are not going to be as high, but it's cash flowing, it's net positive, and you can easily tack on these units without taking on any debt whatsoever. The strategies that I'm telling you in this video are exactly what we used to get to this $300,000 in revenue mark. And this was only after getting properties in a 4-month period. 4 months. We went from 1 unit to 11 units in 4 months, which is like pretty startling. So this can be done and easily replicable just by doing what we're telling you here. So no, it's not a gimmick. You can actually obtain cash flowing units with $0 down. I understand $0 down on purchasing a house is very unlikely, a little more gimmicky. I mean, unless you have access to the VA loan, there's really not a great way to do that without just borrowing that capital. And then you're ending up in the same exact situation, which is you have a much higher mortgage payment, you have much smaller cash flows, and you're really just right back into square one. But I hope this was helpful. I hope this gave you some ideas on how to scale your own arbitrage and property management business in a short time frame and get cash flow and get financially free. So if you are unclear on this or you want to learn how to do this and get more guidance, go to airpreneur.com and schedule some time to chat with us, because my team would be happy to just strategize with you and show you the things that we've done to get here. So thanks a lot. Have a great day. Good luck.